Friday, the final day of the week.
Very final.
Wow.
These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. It's Quentin's Movie Club. It's Quentin's Movie Club. It's Quentin's Movie Club. It's Quentin's Movie Club.
Yeah, we realized during the break that, Kent, you probably haven't heard the news, but Stibbs is quitting on us.
No.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Today will be his last movie club with us, which is actually good news because we don't have to watch his films anymore.
Well, we were discussing off the air that maybe, just maybe,
As a gift.
I'll pick one more today. And maybe if I can make it on my vacation,
Because you were technically still an employee next week.
hop on the video stream for one more of these. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We should
Kent?
do that.
Kent, would you like to say anything to Stibbs before?
Yeah. Yes.
You
We
sure?
can do that. One more really good one. Like really fine.
And by really good, he means really not good.
Ken, my thought was we should just rewatch The Platform.
There we go.
I told you guys, I already watched the episode of Always Sunny where they did the poop in the bed. So I've seen enough. I'm good with that. Before we get to our movie this week, Kent, which is Reservoir Dogs, which you watched 2 weeks ago, I understand. I saw this news earlier this week. You know, as we know, obviously we've been able to do this segment because of the popularity of streaming. A lot of movies now are streaming. Amazon buying the MGM library earlier this week. Pretty big news, pretty significant news. What's going to be the impact?
Not just the library, but the studio as well.
Okay. So
Okay.
they'll be involved in making the movies.
Exactly. They have figured out that in order to play the game against Netflix, they needed a deeper library and they needed production, more film production. That like the movies that they've made that they've been known for, primarily Borat, the second Borat movie. And there was another one that they had. Anyway, they've actually been purchased after they were made. One of them they actually bought off Paramount, right? And they need to have a capability to make their own content. So that was the reason for it. And it is being hailed as a really great move on their part, in part because if you look at what they get the James Bond franchise.
Yes.
Which is the gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely. People, I mean, those retain popularity going all the way back. Yeah. Now, Amazon has been doing their own original stuff, like the Man in the High Castle. There's been a lot of series they've done. So does this just increase their ability to produce even more of that kind of content?
More of that kind of content and also more feature films rather than series.
Okay.
And then you'll see they have done a little bit of theatrical releasing of their movies already. And I think you'll see more of that they'll release it theatrically for a couple weeks and then put it on streaming or a month or whatever. So no, this was a if we're going to compete in the streaming world, we have to do this move.
So
Interesting.
Big stuff. Amazon buying up MGM.
One more for you, Ken, on this. At what point do you think the stuff actually ends up on Amazon for streaming? Like, I know one of the movies that is among this is Raging Bull, which I still have never seen, and it left Netflix, I think, like right after we began the movie club last year, and I still haven't watched it. At what point do you think this stuff is actually going to be on Amazon so we can stream it?
I would guess about as soon as the ink is dry agreement,
Yeah.
because I know that's what they want to do is establish themselves as you already get Amazon Prime, right? You're already paying for it. A lot of people are. You don't need to get Netflix because look at what we've got now.
Mm-hmm.
So big news in the world of entertainment. Well, this movie that we streamed was not on Amazon or Netflix. It's actually streaming right now on Hulu. It is Reservoir Dogs, one of the early entries from Quentin Tarantino from back in the day. For those of you who aren't familiar with its plot, it's basically a gang of...
Here we go.
Yeah, it's basically a gang of jewelry thieves, and of course it's told in a very unique way because we establish who they are, and then we get each individual character as this group begins to deteriorate and not trust each other. And we basically get throughout the film just a backstory for each of the guys and how they got to the point where we were, and that is in this warehouse where this cop is being held prisoner. And
they also skipped the actual heist itself.
It's a heist movie with no heist.
Yeah, it's a heist movie. There's actually no heist. We see how Steve Buscemi's character actually gets away, hauls the diamonds off, but we don't actually see them in the diamond store breaking in and getting the diamonds.
Yeah.
So, very unique film, and in typical Tarantino fashion, a rather uniquely made film.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And for its time, it was really seen as being kind of ultra violent. And it really, watching it now, it doesn't have that same sensibility.
Yeah.
And, it was plenty profane. That would be 272 F-bombs in 99 minutes.
That's awesome.
And some other words as well.
Right. But you know what? It's funny.
Just don't even notice it anymore.
Yeah,
do you?
you don't even notice it anymore. But you mentioned the part about the violence, and you're right. For that period of time, it probably was seen as rather violent. But I think to one specific part in the film, and it's when the Michael Madsen's character takes the razor blade and
dances around a little bit.
Yeah, it does a little dancing around. What was the name of the song again?
Stuck in the middle with you. You'll never think of that, hear that song again and not think of that scene.
Exactly.
Right. But even that scene, I guarantee you, if this would have been Inglourious Bastards era Tarantino, we probably see from 7 different angles how the ear gets cut off. But in that scene, you know what he's doing, but the camera turns and pans away and just kind of stares up at the ceiling while you hear the noise and the screaming, but you don't actually see the cutting. Mm-hmm. I think today that like I said, I think that's shot and probably in rather graphic detail.
And the other thing about that scene is the cop actually improvised the dialogue where he said, "I have a kid," and that freaked Madsen out because he had a little boy, was 18 months.
Oh, wow.
And that's why he acted so weird. So that whole scene is improvised one take.
Wow.
Well, that's good because he only has 2 ears. I mean,
yeah, Kent, kind of along the lines of what we're talking about with, for its time, it was very violent, and for its time, it was this and that. This is one of those movies because I like it, but I also go into it with, the rest of the Tarantino experience, seeing all of the other movies. And so I kind of know what he is about. And I definitely don't think that this is his best movie. This is one of those movies where I wish I could see it through the lens of 1992. I wish I could see it through the lens of, wow, this is so radical. This is so different because, it has a lot of the similarities to other films of, hey, characters are going to talk about random pop culture things, or they're going to have debates about tipping, and, hey, there's going to be linear storytelling and the violence like that. And so it has all these hallmarks of the future movies, but you can definitely tell he's still kind of figuring out the craft of being a director.
Of being a director, but not of being a writer. The writing is great in this. And interestingly enough, he had written this in True Romance at about the same time. And whichever Scott it was that made True Romance, Tony Scott really wanted to make Reservoir Dogs. and not True Romance. And Tarantino said, no, I'm keeping this for myself. And so Tony Scott went off and made Reservoir Dogs. Tarantino was getting ready to make this movie on a $30,000 budget.
Yes.
Crazy.
And long story short, the script got to Keitel, who said, I want to be in it, and I'll be a producer. And all of a sudden, then you had $1.5 million budget. And they went to New York and cast Buscemi, I think, at least him for sure, but I think
Michael Madsen and Tim Roth
were all cast out of New York.
Yes.
Okay. And they wouldn't have been in the movie otherwise if the budget hadn't gone up and if Keitel hadn't sent them to do the auditions there. I've talked to Tim Roth. He played a couple years after this. He played Charlie Starkweather in that Murder in the Heartland miniseries.
Yes.
It was on TV. And I talked to him mostly about playing Charlie Starkweather, but we talked a little bit about this. And he said that he didn't really formally audition for the part, but when he got there, something like all of them wanted to play different parts than the ones they ended up with.
Huh.
And
it's like when they got their aliases in the movie. Like, no, I don't want to be that. I want to be this.
Yeah. But anyway, he's Mr. Orange, who is the what do you want to say? Undercover cop, I guess you could say. He was. And in that warehouse, which is weirdly enough an old mortuary, that's what it was.
Huh.
It was hotter than the sun, right? They made this place, this movie in July and August, which is plenty hot in LA. Then you put the giant film lights in the room, and you can't have air conditioning because it screws up the audio.
Yep.
Well, he'd stick to the floor in that blood. He said he'd have to get peeled up off the floor every couple hours because he stuck to the floor.
Oh, and he by the end of the film, I mean,
it's
he's
a
swimming.
lot of blood.
He's swimming in the fake blood there.
I love the twist that he is the undercover cop because I think, rewatching it, I think it sets up that it's Buscemi because he never shuts up, and you're like, there's something off with this guy.
Yeah, he's the first guy to really start getting nervous about things.
He's like, hey, I know that I'm not undercover, and I know you're not undercover.
He and Keitel are going back and forth for the longest time while Tim Roth's bleeding out on the floor.
And so that it's Roth, the guy who, I mean, he could have easily given himself up, and he does try to go to the hospital, take me to the hospital, but you just think of it more like, oh, he's dying and he will give himself up so that everybody else can survive. I think that that's a pretty good twist.
Yeah. And the other thing, what you said, Josh, about looking at this from 1992, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
When this screened, I remember going, boy, this is really different and really good, but it didn't get much promotion. It was not a big hit. Reservoir Dogs has been seen much more post Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
And so, as you say, you view it through that Pulp Fiction lens, right? And everything that follows. But when you're sitting there watching it, it's like the non-narrative storytelling was like, it took a minute, right? You've seen, there have been other films that have done that, but not very often. And so you go, oh, okay, I get it eventually. And then all the pop culture references and the use of the music. There's no score in this movie.
Yeah.
Right? It's pop music, right?
Yeah.
And all of those things. And you come out of there and go, wow, this was something pretty different and pretty good. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was really pretty good. And it sort of set the stage for people like me and others to really be out front on Pulp Fiction, which then became a huge hit.
Yeah.
Completely changed the world of, quote, independent film. And so, it was very different seeing it there. I remember, and our screening room was a little room. It wasn't a full size theater. It was like 25 seats, and I'd say the screen was maybe 10 feet by 4 feet or whatever the ratio would be. It wasn't a giant screening room, and you sat in there and went, okay, this is a movie you need to see on the big screen because he specifically shot it that way. And that's why it works better. The bigger the screen, the better it works.
Did it ever run first run in Lincoln or Omaha?
I don't know about Omaha. I know it did not in Lincoln.
Okay.
And I saw it at a screening, and I never wrote a review of it because it never played in Lincoln.
Have you ever had a chance to talk to Tarantino, Kent? Because, I've heard and read interviews from him over the years, and his knowledge of film history is incredible. And I know that before the pandemic, doesn't he own a theater and he just shows movies all the time, old movies, old prints or whatever? Have you ever had a chance to talk to him?
I've never talked to him. I've been at a panel that he talked at, and I shook the man's hand once or something.
Yeah.
But that's it. But yeah, you're absolutely right on that. And in fact, here's the other thing about Tarantino movies. If you really want to be a movie nerd, you can go through them and figure out where he lifted parts of the movie from other movies.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Easy ones here. The black suits all come from a John Woo movie, the Hong Kong director.
Okay.
There's a movie, and you see the stills from that movie and this movie, and they look almost identical. And the colors for the names, there's a movie called The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. That is exactly, they use the same colors for names in that movie.
Okay.
And the basic plot comes from a French movie whose name I have long since forgotten. And the legend is that the actual name Reservoir Dogs came from him misunderstanding somebody asking for for a French film when mispronounced sounded like Reservoir Dogs.
Ha! That's incredible.
If I were, and I'm on the page right now, if I were to tell you how many films has Quentin Tarantino directed, what would your number be?
Oh, it's 9. Well, I'm a nerd. I know because he only has one.
He's
left.
only going to do 10.
Yeah, he's only doing one more.
Well, he's actually done 10.
Well,
Yeah,
one
I
of
remember-
them he doesn't count.
I was going to say, I remember there being confusion over
There's
this.
one before Reservoir Dogs, right?
Right.
It doesn't count.
Well, that one's not on the list. The list as I have it, unless he's counting Kill Bill as one
He
film.
counts that as one movie.
Okay, so
That's
then,
one movie. Yeah.
So he says he's doing one.
He says
more.
he's doing one more.
And I was about to ask you, Kent, have we heard anything about, because he's pretty much been on a every 2 to 4 years
Yeah.
release a movie. Now it's been 2 years since Once Upon a Time, so you would think if there's another one coming in the next year or two,
But
Pandemic.
remember, the pandemic knocked everything back a year.
sure.
Because virtually from everything that I've talked to, anybody that's involved in the film industry, it just as well have been shut down. Completely shut down from
and he's not going to do a
Half-assed
straight
movie.
to streaming type deal or anything like that.
and I wouldn't be surprised to see him keep his word on that. We think of Tarantino, or I think of Tarantino, here's this brash young filmmaker. Well, this movie is nearly 30 years old.
29 years old.
That is crazy.
And he made it when he was 29.
He's 58.
58.
Jeez, yeah, I don't think of him as a 58-year-old dude. I think of him in his 40s at most.
Wow.
Right. So doing one more movie puts him in his early 60s. He's I'm sure got more money than he can ever spend now. And he's produced movies and do whatever and not make any more. And there's something to be said that it becomes harder and harder to write his kind of a movie, the older you get.
Interesting.
It's just the way it is.
He's done spaghetti westerns. He's done World War II. This one is, crime or mob-ish.
Noir.
Yeah. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is kind of his homage to Hollywood.
And to the time that he grew up watching movies specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
Think about it. If he's 60 years old and he's making a movie about the 60s, he would have been 8, 9, 10 years old.
Been a young kid.
If you could choose, if you could just
question.
If you could say, I'm not going to tell you what the movie is, I'm just going to tell you what the theme is.
Genre.
What would you like to see him do for his 10th and final film? What genre?
Death Proof 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Actually, I'd like
his backstory on the lady who got her face peeled out.
He's such a genre filmmaker. I'd like to see him do a spy movie.
Oh,
He's never done one of those.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
that sounds fascinating.
Because it would have all of the elements,
all the trappings,
all the Tarantino elements, and it would probably work very well, and it would play off.
A spy movie told non-narrative.
Yeah,
you really turn the genre upside down, because the whole point of spy movies is, this ever tightening tension and. We got to save the world or whatever we're trying to do. And if you already know part of what's going to happen, it flips that whole genre around.
I was going to say science fiction, just because that's a genre, once again, that he's not really played with. And I think he could do something really, really weird.
Sure.
Like, I know he's been thrown around as like a director of Star Trek, or was at one point in time. And so just his take on that genre, I think, would be pretty interesting.
What about
I can't imagine though him staying within the strictures that you'd have to do a Star Trek movie.
Yeah, right. All the profanity.
What about a rom-com?
Romance and Tarantino. Maybe not.
What's your favorite Tarantino movie, Kent?
I really, actually, really liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It grows on me every time.
For today, I say that would be my favorite today, but Reservoir Dogs was my favorite. Is a favorite. In a weird way, I like the Kill Bill movies. I guess the best way to say it is there's the movies that I haven't. The Hateful Eight didn't do much for me.
Same.
Yeah.
Django Unchained didn't do much for me.
Oh, wow.
Not like these others.
You like Bastards? That's my favorite.
I love it.
It's entertaining, but I don't put it up there with the very, very best. But
I'm with Kent on that. I like it, but it's probably not in the top 3.
And I don't think, and not a lot of people probably like Death Proof like we do.
I know I'm on an island. It's my favorite one.
But
it's so weird.
I need to rewatch it.
I love Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
I love the weirdness of it.
Well, and if you watched it as it was originally intended as the double feature with the Robert Rodriguez movie that Kevin and I did down in Wichita, I mean, we had a blast.
Just a wild ride.
A blast watching
wild
those
ride.
movies.
Yeah.
When the lady
that whole Grindhouse thing, that is a good one. I had actually
the Grindhouse was great.
We haven't even mentioned Pulp in this. As we're like, what's your favorite? We didn't even mention Pulp.
Yeah, it inspired me to go buy a box set that he put out of Grindhouse movies, of the real ones.
The real ones.
Yeah, and they're unbelievable. I don't know how else to put it. And there's like 20 of them in this box. And
man. Oh,
well, that is Reservoir Dogs. So are we allowing?
I'm fine with Stim's
All right.
doing it. I mean, he's technically still an employee next week.
For a day.
Yeah.
I was sitting here trying to come up with like something super, super weird as a joke. But last week, someone brought to my attention that a movie that I had been trying to find to do this for ever since we started and wasn't streaming forever is finally streaming on HBO Max.
Oh.
It's Drop Dead Gorgeous. It is another mockumentary style.
Okay.
It is incredibly
Oh, was that the same guy who did?
stupid and funny.
Was it the same director who did the movie we did last week?
No,
Okay.
it is
He
different.
did not do best. Okay.
It is different.
All
This
right.
one's the one about the beauty pageant in small town Minnesota.
This is Kirsten Dunst, Ellen Barkin, Brittany
Oh.
Murphy.
Yep.
90s
Denise
AF.
Richards.
There's
Yeah,
an
it's
incredible
very
amount of
90s.
people in it. Amy Adams is in it before she was in anything
Yeah.
else.
Wow.
And it's one of Ellen Barkin's finest moments.
It is an incredibly hilarious movie. I don't want to like talk it up, but every time I see it, I forget how GD funny it is. It is incredible.
And this is on Max, right?
HBO Max.
HBO
Just
Max.
tweeted out the link.
All right, Drop Dead Gorgeous it is, and
I can't wait.
We'll dig up Stibbs from wherever he's at, and make him join us again here on the Movie Club, and go from there. Kent,
Yes.
do the Lakers lose another game in this series?
No.
Okay.
No. No.
So you're declaring it over.
I'm declaring it over.
You are
Wow.
declaring Florida on behalf of Al Gore. I get it.
They looked awful in that first game.
Yeah.
And and then all of a sudden that must have lit a fire under AD, because once he starts playing good, I'm sorry, Phoenix just is too young and doesn't have the guns to beat him. In a couple of years that that flip. Our Phoenix team's a good young team. But yeah,
Sometimes
that one
you gotta take your licks in the postseason before you earn your stripes.
It doesn't help that Chris Paul's shoulder's also all sorts of messed up when he's running down the floor and you can see him
Yeah.
hold his arm like
He needs
that.
to do a better job of flopping.
I did you see that play? Did LeBron hit him or did he just fall? Yeah, I couldn't tell.
I think he maybe kind of bumped him, but it looked more, just falling down than anything. Yeah.
So
All right.
I'm with you, Ken. I think that it's over.
Well, Kent, have a great Memorial Day weekend, and we will recommence next week for Drop Dead Gorgeous, the biopic of Mike Stibbs. Kent, we will see you later.
Bye, Ken.
y'all.
There he is. Kent Wolgamott, ladies and gentlemen, of the Lincoln Journal-Star. If anything else, it keeps Stibbs TV on the air for one more week.
More week.
It's true.
We
That
just
is
got to
true.
figure out. Look, the video, because I did see Farron. Does this mean I have to come on the phone now? No,
Yeah.
we'll still do video. We're just gonna. It won't be Stibbs TV anymore. Probably just call it Unsportsmanlike Conduct TV or something.
Yeah,
All
we'll
you need is a YouTube account.
Yeah.
So we'll just attach it to one of
You'll
ours.
just have to get your
yeah.
subscribers back,
Yeah, and we'll go from there.
which won't take long.
No.
People love us.
They do.
We had a guy from Germany comment on the video.
Hello, der poet.
The very creepy avatar
Obviously,
there.
they're way behind. They just probably watched the platform, thus the avatar. Because that's kind of how I looked after watching the platform.
eyes were bleeding.
Eyes were bleeding. One eye was like, hey, the Cubs won. Woo!
Hey!
Man, we are hot.
Baseball.
We are hot.
Oopsies. Is there any more day
Oh.
baseball on?
You're not
I
supposed
don't
to
think
care,
so.
John. You're not allowed to care.
That's true.
I can still
You're
care.
not allowed
I'm just
to
not.
care.
I'm just not as. I'm just not.
I'm not emotional. Meanwhile, he's like, yeah, fist pumping earlier.
All I did was pump my fist. It was just a quick,
Pump's
little
all right.
beep like this. I mean, man,
No, there's no more day baseball.
no, there's no more day. If Friday usually, unless if the Cubs are at home,
Here's a
there
remote
is.
Stibbs.
But that's it. So.
Okay.
Now, unnamed person. I'm not going to say the person's name just because don't want to say their name on the air.
Okay.
Horror movie from QT.
I thought about that.
That'd be pretty cool. That would be.
I mean, really, if you think about it, there's so much violence in his films that
they are
kinda
kind of
all-
horror-y. Yeah,
they
Yeah.
kind of toe that line.
I love Kent's suggestion of a spy film
that would be awesome.
because it would
That's hard to beat.
turn everything differently because spy films are very formulaic,
Mhm.
and he doesn't do formulaic, and so his twist on that would be, I think,
It'd be pretty
rather interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's a good suggestion. All right, we will come back. We do have a One Beer Friday still ahead.
Yep. One.
I already drank one.
Oh yeah, me too.
Well, yeah, me too. We also have oh God,
Whoopsies.
does this mean this is the last predictions?
Oh no.
jeez.
I didn't think about that. I'm ruining everything.
You are.
Thank you for saying that.
Who's in the lead?
Nobody cares.
Oh, I am.
Are you?
Yes.
Oh.
I took the lead last week,
Well, that's.
and then I extended the lead.
Did you? I thought I did pretty well.
No one did very well.
Okay.
You went 5 and 7. I went 6 and 6, and
Damn it.
Frost over here went 4 and 8.
Nice. Very well done. Simple Sauce T says they're probably just now watching the alphabet playoff in Germany. Yeah, wait until Der Poet gets a hold of the alphabet playoff. You got a lot of content.
I have
to
that
get to.
bracket up in my office.
You do.
I
I'm
asked
just
him
gonna
what was
leave it
going to
there.
happen to it. Yeah.
Well,
You guys can bring it in here if you want.
Well, you need to send it to the College Football Hall of Fame.
My
Oh,
next
of course
fearless
we do, yeah.
leader. They'll see that and be like, what the hell is this?
What have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, well,
Everyone
everyone
takes
has
my
that.
Xbox too. That's the thing I'm going to forget because it's in here.
Yeah, in your video game.
Yeah, it's not even mine.
Cool.
Some listeners.
Oh, that's right. A listener gave it to us. Wow.
We're the show that doesn't return any borrowed
I
videos or video games.
Volunteered. I said, hey, John
Correct.
Niatawa, I have your double feature of The Fugitive and whatever else was on the Air Force One, maybe. I have it. He was like, I don't need it anymore. He probably doesn't own a DVD player. It's such an old technology. Also, he has a
Did he
kid. He's
say-
not allowed to do anything.
You said John Niatawa.
John
I have your
Niatawa.
double feature of this. Do you want it back? Did he say?
I don't care.
Ah! I
Nice
get it.
reference. 1620 the zone.